And we are live. What's going on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube Live? It is your man, Coach Rowe. Today is Wednesday. I'd like to welcome you to the first row. And if it is Wednesday, you should already know what that means. It's time for the Wednesday word. That's Wednesday word. Jumping straight into it. Tonight's topic is, can you forgive? As always, I like to share what I mean by my topic. So, what do I mean by the topic, can you forgive? Really, what I mean by this topic, can you forgive, is kind of twofold. It's the, can you forgive yourself, and can you forgive others? And really what it's about is letting go of the grudges that we might be holding on to in our lives that are actually holding us back. They're holding us hostage. So, as always, tonight I have three tools for the first row. I almost put up four fingers. Three tools for the first row that I want to share with you when it comes to, can you forgive? Let's jump straight into it. Into it. Tool number one when it comes to, can you forgive, is grudges get heavier over time. Now, when I decide what my first tool is for any Wednesday word, I try to bring the most impactful tool to the top of the list. And though there's other tools that were important, I really felt like grudges being heavier over time was the most important. And here's why. Because when you're holding something initially, when you're, let's say, at maximum strength, I went to the gym this morning. When I first started my workout after I stretched and warmed up, I'm kind of in like peak shape in order to lift heavy weight. So I might be able to start off lifting like bench pressing two plates or two 45-pound plates on each side. And I'm at maximum strength because I'm not tired yet. And it's really easy to lift that initially the first time, maybe the second, maybe the 15th time, it's easy to lift. But by the time I'm to the third set and I'm on number 10, I start feeling muscle fatigue. I start feeling tired and I start slowing down. I start having a little bit longer pauses in between my presses because it's like, oh, wait, I'm not ready to bench press this again. Then I'll let it down and I'll force it back up. Same thing when it comes to grudges and when we are unwilling to forgive ourselves and others. We hold on to grudges and we carry them with us. They travel with us for as long as we hold on to them. And maybe when we first start, traveling with them, or maybe we're young and our knees are good or whatever it may be, and they're not that heavy. They're not that cumbersome. They're not really weighing us down because it's just extra effort or just a little bit of extra weight. But as we get tired, as we move on through life, and as we experience other experiences, not only do we add additional grudges and other traumas and dramas on top of that weight, we're still carrying that same weight, and now we're tired. And whereas we could release ourselves from that by letting go of the grudge, whether that's a grudge we have against ourselves or others, we typically hold on to it. It's almost like if I were to have my arms out, and I know you can't see my full wingspan because I'm so long on my wingspan, but if I have my arms out and I wanted to keep my arms out for the entire Wednesday word, at some point my arms are going to start doing this. They're going to start going down. Why? Because my muscles are fatigued. Even though my hands are empty, my arms still have weight. There is still weight that's being carried. And a lot of times we don't equate the mental weight that things or the mental weight that operating in unforgiveness towards ourselves and others actually has on us. That there's actually a piece of your brain that is being occupied by a resident that you are holding a grudge to, even if that resident is yourself. And so the reason why I made this the very first tool is because of the fact that I understand now what I didn't understand when I was younger in life. When I was younger in life, ooh, please believe I could hold a grudge. But like, nah, they did me wrong. They did me wrong. They did me wrong, and it's never going to be cool again. Now, I actually recently had an experience where somebody who actually did me wrong, or did actually my family wrong, which to me is a greater offense than just doing me personally wrong, just for myself. Um, but they actually did me wrong years ago, and I mean, shoot, maybe 13, 14, maybe even 15 years ago, they did me wrong or did my family wrong. And this person is now back in the picture to a certain degree. And with them being back in the picture, I was like, hey, yo, um, you owe my family some funds because you basically stole from my family. So you owe my family some funds. However, I had to kind of sit back with that because part of me was like, if I see this person, it ain't gonna be cool. But the other part of me says, how far you've come in life to allow this grudge to be devastating to you, it doesn't make sense. So the though over time I may have released some of that mental uh oh my gosh, I just forgot mental capacity or that mental workload of carrying this grudge because I'll trust me until this person showed back up, I hadn't thought anything about them. Over time, I released some of that. There is still some, hey, you did some wrong, and until you make that right, it's not going to be cool. And we'll talk about that complexity a little bit later. But really, with this tool, when it comes to holding on to grudges, it's about actively holding on to grudges when you have the ability to not be engaged with that person. You have the ability to not really think about that person. I'm talking about the grudges that we hold where we're beating ourselves up because we're holding a grudge to a mistake that we made, or we're constantly stewing over the person who is no longer probably even thinking about the mistake that they've made and they have probably moved on. So that's tool number one. Really, it's about relinquishing our grudges because over time, when we first start off, it may not be very heavy to carry those grudges. It may not be very heavy to carry unforgiveness towards yourself or others, but over time, it does begin to wear you down. And as it begins to wear you down, you start losing efficiencies in other areas in your lives in order to continue to carry the grudge. So that's tool number one. Tool number two, when it comes to can you forgive, is we are designed for mistakes. You're going to hear a lot of this tonight in tonight's tool about the back and forth between it being we as in ourselves, we're designed for mistakes, and we as in others, because they are humans as well, are designed for mistakes. There is no universe that we live in currently, nor that I would probably want to live in, where we don't make mistakes. I still make mistakes a day. I make mistakes probably every single week. I don't think every day, but probably every week I could guarantee there's at least one or two mistakes in it. Um, Probably more. Maybe I'm just not aware of them. Ask my wife. I don't know. But we're designed for mistakes. We were not made out of glass. We're not an item that if we fall to the ground, think about how much running around you did as a kid, and you fell down and you didn't break anything. You didn't shatter into pieces. We're built for mistakes. I think about when my youngest son, was running in the house. He slipped and he actually fell and he broke his arm. So he didn't shatter to pieces, but he did break his arm. And I can't remember how old he was. It was a couple years back, but now today his arm is fine. It's growing. He's probably going to feel it when it gets cold, when he gets older. I'm like, why did my arm hurt? Because you broke it. But he's healed up today. It's because we are designed both physically and mentally uh, to engage with mistakes, to make mistakes. And so when it comes to can you forgive, if you can understand that, number one, you're designed to make mistakes. Let's just start with self, that you are designed to make mistakes. Your ability to give yourself or offer yourself grace, which sometimes people say, well, you can't forgive yourself. You can't offer yourself grace. I beg to differ, but we're not going to argue about that tonight. You can offer yourself grace in the aspect of, hey, look, today is my first time being at today. And because today isn't my first time at being at today, I might make a mistake or two. And to be able to give yourself that understanding that you're going to make mistakes makes it a little easier to not have to beat yourself up because you've made a mistake. I think the challenge is, though, is that in understanding that you're designed for making mistakes, people sometimes interpret that as permission to make mistakes. That's a little bit different. Yes, you do have permission to try new things and maybe fail, or try things that you thought were great and found out they weren't. You do have the permission to make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that that's your objective. Your objective is not necessarily to make mistakes. Your objective is to be successful and to not make mistakes, to make good decisions. But understanding that you were designed to make mistakes and accepting that about yourself, what it does, and I've talked about this previously on other Wednesday words, what it does is it activates your compassion for others to understand that they too can make mistakes. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who does you wrong is making a mistake. Some people are just shady people and they do things that are shady because that's what shady people do. But some people are good people and they just simply made a bad decision, a bad choice. Now, whether you want to continue the relationship or not, that's up to you. But if they did make a bad choice and you are of the mind of forgiving them because you can engage with your own compassion of forgiving yourself when you make mistakes, maybe you keep the relationship going, maybe you don't. But understand that they too are designed for mistakes. They're not perfect, they're not going to be perfect, and so by holding on to that grudge, number one, you're not necessarily hurting them. You're more so hurting yourself over an extended period of time. But by holding on to that grudge, you actually are saying, look, I expected you to be perfect. And now the fact that I'm finding out that you're not, there's a problem. Well, I could save you a bunch of time on building relationships. No one is perfect. So if you are expecting for a person to be perfect in order to maintain a relationship, let the relationship go now, because at point, some point, knowingly or unknowingly, willingly or unwillingly, they may happen to make a mistake, and that would be disappointing to you, and that would end the relationship. So that's tool number two. We are designed to make mistakes. We're not glass. We're not porcelain. We are blood breathing human beings who can break things on our own self physically and sometimes heal those things over an extended period of time. So finally, tool number three when it comes to can you forgive is really about forgiveness does not require a connection. What do I mean by that? Because that's a little tricky on what I mean by that. But what I mean when I say forgiveness does not require a connection is going back to accountability. One of the things that I am huge, is accountability. Being accountable to doing the work necessary to get the results that I want. So if there's something that I see out there that I'm not doing in order to get what I want, then I'm accountable to going to do that in order to get what I want. However, when I say forgiveness does not require a connection, what I'm saying is that you can forgive a person. You can absolutely forgive a person. You can choose not to carry a grudge. You can understand that people make mistakes, and that will help you not carry the grudge. But then it does not require you to maintain a connection with that person or have an ongoing connection with that person. I think the biggest reason that we hold on to grudges is because it keeps us entitled to hold mistakes that people have made with us, against us, about us, whatever us. It it entitles us to hold that offense or mistake over that person's head, almost to lord it over their head as a sense of manipulative power. Well, and you see this happen. I call these tot lot politics. You see this happen in elementary. You did this. I'm not going to be your friend anymore, right? So then the person stops being your friend, and then the person who they're no longer trying to be friends with says, "Oh my gosh, well look, you can have my chocolate milk, you can have my fruit snack, you can have my Pop-Tart." I'm maybe aging myself for what I used to bring in my lunch, but you can have these things because they are trying to win back over your friendship. However, the problem with them trying to win back over your friendship, hey, what's going on, casual? The problem with them trying to win back over your friendship is they are doing it because you are holding the relationship as a hostage. Your relationship with me will not be, you cannot have a relationship with me because you did this to me. And until you make it right, you can't have a relationship with me. That is, in my perspective, that is an act of manipulation. And so when I look at can you forgive, I'm not referring to can you forgive and forget. I'm not referring to can you forgive and accept them back, their apology, and accept them back into your life and give them 100% access to you. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying, can you forgive and then on a mature level make a decision if you want to continue a connection with that person or not. Because if you do want to continue a connection with that person, then maybe it's as simple as having a conversation. Hey, look, this is what that mistake that you did, this is what that caused for me. And I don't want that feeling in the relationships that I hold near and dear. I love you. I care about you. I like you. I care about you. I care about you, whatever it may be. But I don't want that in the relationships that I am fostering or that I am nurturing. So I really need, I really like, I don't need anything from anybody, but I really like if you work on that um, for the sake of our relationship. That doesn't matter if it's a business relationship, intimate relationship, friendship, acquaintanceship, whatever. For the sake of our relationship, it would be helpful to me if you could work on that. That's forgiving and keeping the connection. Now, if you truly don't want to keep the connection, somebody made a mistake that is not something that you feel can the relationship can come back from. If you truly don't want to keep the connection, then why would you uh, lord that manipulation over them? You can absolutely forgive them and say, "Hey, look, I get it. People make mistakes. This just happens to be a huge one, and for me, I don't want to put you in a relationship nor myself in a relationship to where this is always going to be an issue that comes up as a trigger. So as unfair as it may feel to you right now, um, it will be best that we end this relationship, this friendship, this employment relationship. It'd be best that we end this relationship while we can amicably end it, um, and still hope for the best for each other, but not necessarily be connected on the same path. And here's the key to this particular tool is forgiveness does not require a connection, but just like boundaries, it's never too late to set or establish a new boundary, set a boundary, establish a new boundary, update a boundary. Um, just because you're in a space where you have forgiven somebody and you no longer want a connection doesn't mean that later on down the road that your paths may not cross and then you reestablish a connection. Doesn't mean that. But it's about being, this particular tool is about being honest with what it is that you want from the relationships that you have, what it is you want from yourself. This is the only part where this tool does not apply to self. As far as forgiveness does, you can forgive yourself or not forgive yourself. You are required to be connected to you. And so this is more so a tool for outward or external relationships, not the internal mental relationship that we have with ourselves. So that is really what it's about. And the last thing uh, um, about this particular tool, I almost forgot, is that the fact that we are mad has, and I guess this is a bonus tool within this, the fact that we are mad about something, a mistake that was made, whether we made it or somebody else made it, is irrelevant to our ability to forgive. I actually was working on a writing one time, and it was talking about, it was like 6 or 7 pages about forgiveness. But in talking about forgiveness, one of the things that was really important about it is that we forgive as fast as we possibly can. It's almost like when they say fail fast in order to get to success, forgive as fast as you can. Because what that does is it frees up that bandwidth for you to be able to continue to move forward and not get stuck in this loop or cycle of, well, you made me mad or you offended me or you hurt my feelings, you made a mistake, and now I want to hold that against you. And then we move forward a little bit, and then you do something that I don't like, but I drag us back to this place of resentment, this place of where I have not forgiven you. So this forgiveness is something that we should be doing fast, because the longer we hold on to it, the longer we keep that grudge, the heavier it becomes and the more mentally taxing it becomes in our lives. So that's what I have for you guys tonight. Really quick, let's go over the 3 tools for the first row. Tool number 1 is that grudges get heavier over time. Please, please, please remember that it's important to relieve yourself of that extra burden that you're carrying if you're holding on to a space of unforgiveness for a mistake you've made or a mistake that someone else has made. And honestly, I don't even care if it's an intentional mistake. If it's a mistake or it's intentional, be willing to let go of the grudge so that you can move forward unimpeded. Tool number two is we are designed for mistakes. Mistakes are really not the end all be all. We can recover from them. I've made some horrible mistakes in my life. I've had some horrible intentions in my life early in life. Um, but at this point in life, I've recovered from a lot of that. And that just continues to further solidify for me that we are designed to make mistakes, but those mistakes were really designed to help us grow if we allow them to. And then tool number three is forgiveness does not require a connection. If you want to move on, it's okay to move on. You can actually still forgive and move on. The removing yourself from the situation, honestly, if you are providing a benefit to that person, taking yourself out of the situation is punishment enough. You don't need to hold on to unforgiveness or not forgive the person because you feel like it just adds an extra sting. No, I'll never forgive you. You never forgiving somebody actually hurts you more so than it would ever hurt them. And so that's what I have for you guys tonight. As always with the Wednesday Word, I like to share a personal story, something that got me thinking about this particular topic. And what got me thinking about this particular topic was a friendship that I had to let go of. I think it was about 17 or 16 years ago. And the part that really brought this thought to mind was how that relationship ended. The relationship ended. The person made a phone call to me. They said that they no longer wanted to be friends. They didn't feel like we were good friends to each other, and that they wanted to move on. If they see me on the street, they weren't going to speak. And I simply said, okay, I understand. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. Wish you the best. Godspeed. And that was the end of that phone call. Fast forward, I don't know how many years, like maybe 10 years, maybe 15. I don't even remember. 10 years, maybe though. Fast forward 10 years, the person reaches out to me indirectly to kind of just like on some, hey, I wonder how he's doing. Hopefully everything's great and wishing you the best, so on and so forth. To me, there was no feeling of like, no, I'll never forgive that person for how they just left me in my time of need. There was no feeling for that. Hey, I'm sorry that you feel the way you feel about our friendship, but I can respect that you no longer want to be friends. Now, here's the caveat. If the person wanted to be friends with me today, I wouldn't be their friend. And it has nothing to do with a grudge that I'm holding. It has everything to do with the characters that the characteristics that I look for in friends. It has nothing to do with the fact that they called me and told me they didn't want to be my friend. It has everything to do with who I am today and the character that I require of people that I consider friends and that refer to me as their friend. That's what it has to do with. And so I was thinking about how not being mad at the person, and they've made some other mistakes along the way, but not being mad at them for the mistakes that they've made, um, even though some of those mistakes are pretty big mistakes, not being upset with them, not being, uh, not holding a grudge that they made mistakes that are impacting lives of people that I care about, not being upset with them about that. And I thought about it for a second in the aspect of like, man, did I just not care about this person? Nothing to do with that. Cared much. I cared a lot about this person. However, um, this is the freeing portion of when you're not willing to hold on to a grudge. This is the part that frees us. When you're not willing to hold on to a grudge, all that rot and resentment and envy and jealousy and all the other negative things that have the opportunity to build up around the thought that you're not letting go, around the mistake that you're not letting go, none of that gets an opportunity to exist because you've sanitized the area. You remember the experience, but it doesn't invoke emotions of frustration and anger. You remember the experience, but it doesn't make you judge, jury, and executioner in the judgment of that person for that mistake that they made. And that's really what this is about. And this is why I've tied it to others, but very much so tied it to who we are as individuals. When we make mistakes, if we can forgive ourselves, we are freeing ourselves up to absorb the maximum information of the lesson from the mistake. And we're also freeing ourselves up to make better decisions going forward. So that's what I have for you guys tonight. As always, I enjoy being on the Wednesday Word with you guys. It's been a heck of a day. So we are going to wrap right here. But I thank you guys for tuning in live with me. The next time that you'll see me will be next Wednesday, but it's a holiday week, so you'll catch a Wednesday Word premiere. That's the next time that I'll be on the first row, but you can catch Terrell and Michelle live on the Grind Defined podcast, anywhere where you consume podcasts at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until then, the next time you'll see me will be Wednesday. I don't even know what the date is, but Wednesday, the 23rd of November at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But until the next time, one love, peace, and God bless. Thanks for walking with me on the first row. I forgot I have an outro.